All right, so we've talked about the start of World War One, and really there are many factors that led to really countries from all over the world jumping into this war, what would be called the Great War. And you really can't narrow it down to one cause or one event. There was a lot of things connected, and it was almost like dominoes. One thing started, and it led to the next thing. There was a lot of cause and effect relationships going on here. So we learned. Uh, Initially about the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. This was the Archduke of Austria-Hungary, the heir to the throne, and he and his wife were assassinated by a group from Serbia, a Serbian nationalist from this terrorist group called the Black Hand. And so um, originally we have Austria-Hungary and Serbia arguing over a chunk of land and a group of people wanting to be part of Serbia, but the land belonged to Austria-Hungary. And so this argument back and forth, and eventually the result resulted in this assassination, really all of a sudden caused things to move in the direction of a bunch of countries jumping in before we knew it. And so why did that happen? How did this happen? Well, we can think of it as the main causes of the war, MAIN. As far as an acronym, each of these different things, MAIN, M for militarism, A for alliances, I for imperialism, and N for nationalism. So let's talk a little bit about what this all means and what each of these means. It's not necessarily something where you need to know all these details, but it's really one of the most important and interesting things of the war to understand World War I. And so when we talk about militarism, the idea that these countries, all these countries in Europe, wanted to build up the strongest military possible. And so it became known as an arms race. So the armed military and the Navy, countries wanted to build as great of a military as they possibly could. And so Great Britain and Germany both increased their navies during this time period. In addition, Germany and Russia particularly established that their large, powerful military influenced really their government and the laws and the different things. They really put a value on war and becoming strong militarily. And so that's the M. And there are a lot of countries building up their military at the time. The next one, and one of the huge factors, is alliances. When you build an alliance, make an alliance with someone, basically you're saying, I got your back. If someone were to attack you, I will jump in and protect you and also go to war with that country. And really, this is where the dominoes started to happen. When you think about the alliances here, countries in Europe made these agreements to defend each other if one was pulled into battle. And as a result, when one country was attacked, all of a sudden people started jumping in and taking sides. And so there were a lot of alliances that existed. You don't have to understand and know all of these, but it's interesting to know Russia and Serbia were an alliance. Germany and Austria-Hungary allied together. France and Russia were an alliance. Great Britain and France and Belgium all were together. And then Japan and Britain were an alliance. And so when Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia after that assassination, Russia got involved to defend Serbia. And so this is so crazy. Germany then, seeing Russia get involved, declared war on Russia. And then France was drawn in against Germany and Austria-Hungary because of their alliances. Germany attacked France by going through Belgium, which then Great Britain said, oh, no, you didn't. And they jumped in. And so Japan entered the war because they had an alliance with Great Britain. And then eventually Italy and the United States would enter on the side of the Allies, but that would be later. At least at first, the United States said, we are isolated. We're apart from all of this in Europe. So that idea of isolationism, where the United States said, we're not going to get involved in this. But eventually they were also pulled into the war. So that's the idea of alliances. You don't have to know each of those, but it's so interesting to see all the sides that different countries took, and that eventually, caused so many countries to be pulled into war. I is the idea of imperialism. Basically, that's when a country wants to increase their power and wealth by gaining more land and taking over really other countries and taking them as their territories. And so before World War One, Africa and different parts of Asia were really targets of a lot of European countries. They went out and tried to take this land and claim land for as their own so that they could use the raw materials and the resources from these countries and become more and more powerful. And so there became this intense competition among countries racing to get more and more land. And so there already was a lot of tension and confrontation involved with these European countries. And so when World War One broke out, you could kind of see that it was going to happen at some point. And then the idea of nationalism. Uh, Essentially, this is the belief that your nation, your country is better than any other. And so you're willing to do anything you can to defend it and stick up for it. And so a lot of this was based on going back to the beginning. This group of people in Bosnia and Herzegovina, these people wanted to no longer be part of Austria Hungary, but be part of Serbia. And so they really felt that they wanted to keep their culture and their beliefs, and they felt strongly that they wanted to be part of Serbia. So they were proud of their heritage and their culture. Well, really, that idea that that a person's heritage, culture, traditions, and just their country was something to believe in and fight for was the idea of nationalism. And so it became this huge competition. And so, as we think about these different things, MAIN, these were the factors that all were sparked by this assassination, but had already been brewing in Europe. And so, that's what you could say. All of these things led to the Great War, World War One.